Dead at Hello and welcome back
Hello. Oh,
to
thank you.
episode 2.539. No, just kidding. Um, so awesome. Well, we're going to talk about today. Cut. I don't know how to start these, but it's okay. We'll get rolling. We'll get it started. So today we're talking about fears of jumping from retail to just like any like retail executive work, all the things into finance and building our own agency. And we're like, well, we're a little wild and we're a little fun and a free, but also we had a lot of fears when we left our retailer. And so
Mhm.
what we're going to talk about today is our fears as we go through. So the first question that I would love to ask Amanda, welcome back. I'm excited to
Yeah.
continue.
Yep.
What fears did you have about leaving your secure, big air quotes, secure job?
My secure, yeah, like I didn't have an expiration date on my back, like
Yeah,
like we all felt like it.
yeah.
Um, God, I had a lot. I think anytime you switch careers, you have this just fear of the unknown. That's a very normal,
Mhm.
just thing. And because we're literally triggering our fight or flight reflexes, right? But when it comes to something as strong as a culture that a lot of big box retailers have. There's a culture of one, that you can't get paid the same. It's kind of you kind of are under this impression that like this is the best you're gonna get paid. We're the most competitive, like that. So then you're constantly like, well, can I afford to do a lesser job, and not get paid as much? Well, if you're not financially in a really great spot, then you're like, no, I can't. I'm already paycheck to
Right.
paycheck. I can't go take a job lesser and have a better life because then I'll have
Yes.
not a better life because then I will not be able to afford my lifestyle. So there's that whole piece of it, right?
Hmm.
Which is why building myself into a place to have the choice to say, I don't have to worry about that. I can walk away if I want to, but I still had fear, even though the financial wasn't the fear. Then there was this whole like, I mean, I'd been there for 16 years. It was what I did out of college. And quite frankly, I worked in retail and mostly big box retail my whole since I was 16 years old. So
Wow.
then it was like, can I do anything else? Like, what if I can only run a register? Just kidding. But what if that was like,
Well,
like my
that's what you
only,
did, right? That's all
I
you did
did,
was
that was
run
my
a
only
register.
job.
Yeah.
I ran registers. And it was like, no, what if I'm not good in other
Hmm.
industries because I wasn't going to leave retail and go and work for retail again. Like I just like once I made that decision of like, man, if I'm going to leave, like it's because of the industry, not because of the company. It's just the
Hmm.
industry I needed to get out of for the lifestyle. And then it was like, well, what else is out there? You kind of almost feel like nothing else is out there except for like stuff that you'd have to have a degree in, like a engineer or like
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't even know. I couldn't even like think of like what else is out there. I don't want to do restaurant. It's the same thing. Don't go to
Yeah.
restaurant retail or the
Yes.
same.
Totally.
So it was really hard. I was like, technology, that's the only other thing that's out there, right? Is technology. I don't know. I don't
Or
want to do technology.
technology sales or what is, I don't know.
Yeah, Best Buy. No, that's retail. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Yeah. So what do I do with my hands? That's kind of what
Yeah.
it felt like. I don't know what's out there. And yeah, so that was tough. But also there is a bit of a like reputation concern, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, you wear this, it's so me and one of my group vice president partners, we used to talk about like the badges. Like if there was actual badges that you
Hmm.
could wear on your shirt, and it was like the badge of the worst customer ever, or the badge of turning a red store to green,
Right.
or logistics were the best. Man, we used to love to punish ourselves. Like, we're gonna do a triple. It was like, let's do a triple truck. And then when you finish it, you're like, nobody can touch me.
Yep.
It was like the story forever, right? But it was
Yep.
awful in the moment. But then afterwards, you're like, oh, I'm the king. And that's like, you have all these badges and stuff. And so
Hmm.
when you leave, there's this like feeling, a lot of people are like, oh, they just couldn't hack it. Or like, oh, retail gotcha, burned you out. And you're
It's
like,
so true.
dude,
It
it's
is
like,
so true.
come on, man. Like, yeah. Why is that a bad thing? Like, I'm ready to go. Like,
Yeah.
and then a little bit of like you're breaking loyalty.
Hmm.
And that is hard to
Hmm.
one, be okay with other people's perception of you, whether it's true or not. We always used to say perception is reality, right? That's how you try to change your customers' perception of the
Yeah.
store for your survey. And so, it was like, man, are people going to think I got fired? Are people going to think that like I got
Mhm.
pushed out, especially at a higher level position, right? The
Right.
assumption is like you're getting fired or you're getting pushed out or
Right.
you're bad at your job. And it's like,
Hmm.
wow, there's so many things that go into it. And I know a lot behind the scenes, and there's a lot
Hmm.
more than just that happens that for one reason or another. And so when you feel like you're leaving all your friends,
Hmm.
people who have you've known since before, graduating college and being this wild college kid to, oh my gosh, I have a child and I'm a mom and I'm married and I have it's like you watched me grow up basically, and now I'm going to leave you.
Yeah.
Those things, those were hard. Those were really hard
Hmm.
to finally walk through that door because yeah, there was more than one time that I wanted to leave, and these
Hmm.
these pieces kept kind of like pulling me back in and pulling me back in, or a position change. That was the last thing, was like I wanted to leave and they're like, but what if you do other positions? That like, would you stay to do other positions? And so we're really good at, if we want to retain somebody, we just want to retain them at the company. And
Hmm.
so what we'll do is try to offer other jobs that may give the solution. And it never gives the solution because retail
No.
is retail.
Right.
And quite honestly, even in my world, or we used to like throw more money at them.
Yes.
And that was such a temporary band-aid. That was like a band-aid
Yeah.
in a pool. Like it's gonna come off real fast, real
Yeah.
fast. And it did
The pool
always.
Band-Aid. Yes. That's a
Full
good.
band-aid.
Yeah.
Just gone. It like I don't care how big
It's
it is.
so
It's gonna
fleeting. Yeah.
it's gonna fall off. Like nothing is waterproof.
But then when you go to tell your friends, like, oh, yeah, I was just about to leave, but like they offered more money. So I got one on them.
Mhm.
And you're like, man, that wasn't really the purpose of why you were going to leave. It wasn't the
At
money.
all.
No,
That's not the money. No,
it's
the
not
money
the
was
money.
already good. That was the problem. The problem was leaving because yeah. So we basically double down on your fear. The company
Hmm.
does, of like, oh, you think there's more money out there? What if I offer you 10,000 more? Now you're
Yeah.
certainly not going to make this money anywhere else. And now
Hmm.
you're like, what do I do? Go tell my family like I actually want to spend more time with you, but I'm gonna turn down this $10,000 for you.
Right.
Like,
Hmm.
what? So if your family and friends, if they're behind you and supporting you,
Hmm.
then that's the best thing that you can ask for. Other than that,
Yeah.
it's courage. You have to
Hmm.
have the courage to and we kind of talked about it. I think we referenced it on another conversation of it's betting on yourself. You got to bet on yourself that like no
Right.
matter what, you're going to figure it out. You're going to be successful. You're going to learn. You're going to grow, and you're going to make it happen. And it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be here. And that it's a lot of emotions to go through when you're trying to make that decision. Did you ever have those? Did you go through that world, or were you just like,
Yes. Well, I was like transitioning out and I was like, hey, I think you guys could tell I'm kind of miserable here, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was only, I was in one store. So I didn't get to talk to districts and all
sure,
different, different stores and different things like that. But there was like, those are people you're spending 40 to 60 hours with a week that you're like, hey, um, I got to go make new friends. And that's what it felt like, right? Like, say,
I'm gonna go make new friends. I don't like new friends anymore.
I love you guys, but you're not cool enough for me. And it wasn't them, but
I
you're
think
right.
there's better friends out there, so I'm gonna leave you
Yeah,
specifically. Yeah.
exactly. And so now I'm like, man, I'm starting to pick and like choose my friends that I go and talk to about this business because I'm like, man, I would love them to come too. But there's a lot of people that I talk to, they're like, no, well, it's not hourly. It's not the cozy, comfortable that we get used to. I'm like, yeah, but I also get to drop my family off at school. I get to spend time in the evenings with them. I get to I don't have weekends and holidays and all the stuff that you just get used to. And then when you get out of it, you're like, oh, this is what you do when you're bored with your family. And this is what you do when you have time to be able to think of like, oh, let me check my email or check my phone because I have to see what's going on at the store. And it's like, man, there's so much more out there. Um, but you're right that like it's kind of like turning your back on your friends, your coworkers,
Mhm.
and they are friends, right? It's not quotes. It's real
Totally.
friends.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that you realize are going to be in that role for a while now, and they've been there for as long as you. And you change stores, and it's always emotional to change stores and roles and different things like that too. Um, some are for benefit, and but you do get that fear of, am I doing this the right thing? And it's taking that step, that courage. Um,
Mhm.
I think of it too, like it's literally jumping off, especially when you jump into business, right? When you start to do your
Mhm.
own business instead of, hey, I'm just going from one job to a bank to a retail to another. Like there's a lot of courage in that. And I don't think
Mhm.
it's for everybody, right? I think there's transition for some people to say, hey, let's do a little bit at a time. Let's see what other options are, because we never know what is going to happen. God forbid your company goes down. And I talked about this last week. It's like, man, never
Mhm.
know what's going to happen. And how quickly are we just numbers that are part of this? We were looking at the stocks before this, and it's like we're
Ooh.
just a cog in the wheel that they'll replace you like that. And unless you're loyal to them, they're gonna. And it's no heart either, right? Like we've all had to fire people and terminate people, and it's never personal, and it's tough because we have to make it. Life is a personable area and a thing that we live through, so it's hard because a corporation is not made to be that type of culture. So it's
No.
that's kind of a tricky fear that I dealt with, was definitely the fear of people being like, "Oh, you left? What happened? You aren't good at your job. You didn't do this well." You know, all those things too. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And
definitely
you
felt
always read like, yeah, oh, you shouldn't be worried about what other people think about you. And I'm like, okay, listen, sure. It's not like people in general that when I'm
hmm
saying that, it's people that I care about, it's people that I love, it's my best friends, it's my trauma bonds that I'm
yeah,
breaking. I'm breaking the
yeah,
bond. Like
hmm
I'm breaking the rule. And it almost feels like yeah, like you're leaving, you're bailing on them. And
hmm
nobody wants to feel like that. But it is really interesting too that when you leave, you see who like you still stay in contact with and who you don't stay in contact with. And
yep,
that's tough too, because it's almost
hmm
like you get this realization of like, oh, we really actually weren't that close. I thought we were.
right,
Guess we're not that close. Like
hmm
once the underlying of like this is why we get along and it's because
right.
of our
We work together.
disgruntledness or
Hmm
whatever. It's like, well, then I'm done with you. If you're done with me, I'm done with you, kind of feeling.
hmm
And um your reasoning as to leave, it has to be something bigger than that, more
right,
important than that. And I think that's where you and I finally got to that, because it was a family impact. It wasn't just me in my
yeah,
life. It was like you potentially losing your wife, me
hmm
not getting to watch my son grow up. Like,
yeah,
what? Why would why, like, I love you, dude, but why would I choose you over my child? Like, I
yeah,
don't, just walk me through that thought
hmm
process, but
yeah,
it's still, it is really scary. Like, can you make it out there
hmm
without the best practice, without here's the directions on how to do your
right.
job? Like, entrepreneurship doesn't really come with instructions.
Nope. I
It's
realized that when I got into, even I went from one retail to another grocery store. It was like just a very local co-op, and they're like, "Oh, just do your thing." I was like, "Well, they used to tell me what my thing was, and
yeah,
now
well,
I don't know what that means. What do you mean my thing?
that's
I don't have a thing. I just followed
that's
the
the thing.
playbook." And so I liked this business that we're in because we work with a brokerage that says, "Hey, just follow the steps." And I'm cool with that.
Hmm.
I'm like, hey, let's roll. Like you gave me some direction and I like that piece too. But then there's also some leeway where I can go into different avenues and different strategies and not be like condemned and broke. It's like they promote that. They're like, "Oh, cool, you do your thing, but also leverage our system that we have in place." And I'm like, it's
It's always
very,
like we always used to say that's
very
like, if you
beautiful.
don't, yeah, if you don't know what to do, go to the instructions.
Hmm
It'll tell you what to do. But sometimes there's a better way to do the things,
Yep.
and it's
Then the
okay if you
instructions.
figure that out.
Hmm
And that's what this feels like, where before it was like, hold on. We don't actually know if you know what you're talking about. I'm going to ask you to just not do that. Like, go
Right.
back to the instructions. So, like, to your point, I think it's more about like this having brokers and having the access to the companies without us having to figure out how to make those company connections is what is beautiful for me. And
hmm
also to your point, the outline of how do we train? How do we get promoted?
hmm
how we organize our resources and our time. Like that stuff's very, very important, especially when you're new. But as far as the concept and what you want to do with your business, like that's all you. And like
Yeah.
I have like a new like market that I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so cool if I could help. And it's getting into like with wedding venues and like wedding
Hmm.
planners. And because do you know what the number one reason for divorce is?
Is money.
Money. It's
Hmm.
money. Monies. And so I'm
That's a
like, oh my
great
gosh,
partnership,
right? I'm
strategic
like,
partnership.
okay, if it was like, okay, this is my person, because I don't turn to my clients or whatever, but I get to go sit with them and say, okay, there's two things we're gonna do together. First and foremost is have you budgeted and figured out what you want to spend on your wedding now that you have decided on a date and you have a venue. Like now let's talk about all the goods.
Hmm.
Second of all, just from money. I don't do other things, just money. And then second of all, like, have you guys had any types of conversation about like, what do you believe in debt?
Hmm.
Is debt good? Is debt bad? How did you grow up feeling about money? How did you grow up feeling about money?
Ooh,
Like, really getting them on the same page about money before they go and spend a whole bunch of money on
a wedding. And then they live
deciding.
together and then they put the accounts together and then they're like, what are you spending? You don't talk about that before marriage.
A lot of people don't. Some of them
Yeah.
do, and then there's like counselors and stuff. What you have to go to like
Yeah.
wedding counseling and stuff like that sometimes, but
Pre-marriage marital counseling and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. But what if your premarital counseling was actually with a financial professional who helped you actually specifically plan out your finances together and what it was going to look like so that you had this beautiful path of your finance future, not just your future together as a newly wed couple, right? So it's
Right.
like,
Hmm.
man, you can take this business and you can help all kinds of people in pockets that you've never even like
Yeah.
thought about. It's like, this is
Wow.
so cool.
This is
Like,
cool.
I'm like, okay, well, I want to do it. And I'm like, it's springtime. Everybody gets married in the spring and in the summer. I'm like, this is so good. Like, I want to
Yeah.
go help all these new babies, like, have a
Yes.
beautiful relationship. Like, so fun. It's so cool. So yeah, it's the creativeness and pursuing the passion you want is
Hmm.
something that you don't get to do when you're in a big box. They call it a box for a reason.
Hmm.
Like,
It's
just
it's
do
kind of
this.
just internal. Yeah, exactly. It's
You didn't know you're just voguing the
white
whole
boy
time in
Vogue
retail.
dancing. Exactly. That's my move at the wedding venues, you know what I'm saying? Speaking of weddings, yeah.
This weekend, I literally did this move, and I was like, "Oh my God, where's Robert?"
Where's Robert? He would appreciate this. We're closing down the bar an hour early because
Closing
it's
down the bar. Like,
it's daylight savings time. Let's go. Oh man.
it's so good.
So, okay, we're going down a rabbit hole, and I know I can do it easily. So, what was it that I know like a big thing is your why of like not
Mhm.
going what you're leaving, but what was the thing that caused you to break out of that fear or push past that fear?
Yeah. If I'm being really, really honest, it was the financial security. Like, I knew no matter what, we were gonna be great for
Hmm.
years. I had years. Like, we did the math. So we sat down, me
Hmm.
and my husband, we sat down and did the math of like how many years of money and assets do we have that if I did not work and did not pull in an income, could we live the exact same lifestyle and be okay with? And I had like 3.5 years. It
Wow,
was like, okay, yeah, I can go. I'm gonna work before
that's
3.5 years.
seems
Like,
low.
we're fine. Yeah. So it was like, so the emotional part, yeah, that was
So you
tough to
went
get
from
through.
emotion to uh, hard details. Show
Actual
me the
logic.
numbers. Show me the yeah,
Show me the numbers. That's
yeah,
right. And it was like, oh, dude, I can go. It was like, it's
yeah.
totally good. And like, that's what also made him really comfortable and supportive and was like, yeah,
Hmm.
you got this. Like, this is why we worked the way we worked. And we were really smart through that time period of not saying, like, oh, we're 24 years old making $70,000 and together we're making $140,000. So we're just going to like live at large. Like,
Right,
we were able to pull ourselves back and
right.
still, don't get me wrong, we took some cool vacations and did a lot of cool
Yeah.
things. And we bought a house and paid it off in 4 years and had a baby and lived a great life. But we were
Mm.
able to prioritize our
Right.
choice in life.
Mm.
So that's where like if you have the financial confidence, then you're going to be able to probably move through some of the other emotional confidence just fine.
Right.
So
Wow.
yeah. What about you? Why were you like, yeah, it's cool. I got this.
Yeah, I have a really supportive wife. She's amazing. She was like, "Hey, let's do this together." I also like dream sold and shared like, "Hey, what if I could leave in the next 5 years? Like never work a job. I can retire you. I can retire like have you homeschool the kids, like all of these things. If I just focused on this for 5 years." And she's like, "Yeah, it's great." So we did we pulled back though. We were like spending on
Mhm.
everything and we were like, let's we were very open to doing everything spending. But starting a business and everything, it takes time. And starting to learn like, hey, we've got to budget things. We don't
Mhm.
really need this trip. We don't need that thing. And we don't need to go wild while this is building. And she's been very
Yeah.
supportive and working full time. And because I shared that vision of, and that's the big thing that I love doing with my new partners and agents, is just sharing vision. Like, hey, it's going to stink for the first couple years, probably. Maybe you just kill it and you don't have to worry about this and you're replacing your income in a year or two, or even faster. There are people that do that in this industry.
Sure.
But also, there's a lot of people that don't take that jump, and it's because they have that fear of that comfortability where they're not able to
Mhm.
skip on budgeting and all the things that we teach as in our agency as well as how do we budget that we can afford to do those types of things and still be able to afford to have a great life. And I realized like this stuff is just stuff, we can't take it anywhere with us, but
Right.
relationships is the most important thing. Like if we can build those relationships and build something that the kids are going to remember, that dad was with them every night, that I took them to school every day, that we did activities together. Like we do everything as a family. We're kind of like that love language of quality time. We have to be
Yeah.
next to each other everywhere. So if my wife goes somewhere with the kids and we're like, wait, why aren't I going? Can we go too? I would love to join you. But I couldn't do that if I was in retail. I would just be
Oh
like, hey,
no.
let's do that and let's get to it. And I'll be honest with you. I've had fears of like, hey, is this business going to do it for me? And I've thought of getting a
Mhm.
job and I'm like, man, if I just push and help and serve more people, that's what it comes back to. How can I help and serve more people and not let that fear just eat me up? Because I see a lot of people that do that and they say, oh, well, I'll just got to get a part-time job. And that's not the goal of why I do what I do. I want to have that time freedom. I want to get to something built where I don't have to worry about that. And sometimes it takes that strategy and that planning and also understand that you don't need all the stuff that you think you need and having a rein on that. And uh, it's beautiful because I've learned that this is all just stuff. The relationships is that most important piece of it too. So
Yeah. Mine's the time.
yeah,
Like
time is so important.
I don't get to watch my son go through 3 years old again. I don't get to watch him be a four
Nope.
year old again. Like
Mhm.
it is what it is. And so and it's what I make it. And that's again the choice. It's what I make it. But people don't feel like they can make it the way they want. And it could be generational, right? Like just they've never had wealth in their family generationally. So this
Mhm.
is all they know. Same kind of concept, right? Like you're in this
Right.
bubble or box of like, this is just life. And it's
Hmm.
like, actually, it's not.
Nope.
It's a,
We're not here for
like,
that.
yeah, at all whatsoever. So it's either way.
Hmm.
There's a couple of sayings that came to my brain when you were talking about it, but like it's kind of like the best things in life are not free, and the best things in life are not easy. And it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, time doesn't feel free.
Nope.
And getting your time back is not easy.
Hmm.
But that is the most valuable thing in our lives. And
Hmm.
so if like, okay, so I just have to do some things that aren't necessarily easy
Hmm.
and get what I and then I can get what I want. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure throwing a triple was not easy, but I
Yeah.
did it. So I could wear
Yeah.
that invisible
That
badge
badge. Yeah, that
of
badge
a
that
triple.
nobody goes to see. Yeah.
That's all I wanted was to be like, I did a triple. But now I'm like, well, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. And so like yeah, I mean fear, like you can also look in a bunch of different studies about that same chemical reaction that happens in your body with that fight or flight, right?
Hmm.
Is it's actually the same feeling. It's just which direction you choose to do, right? Do you choose to jump or not jump? But it's the same thing with like the same feeling of excitement is the same feeling as fear. And
Yep.
so are you excited and that's that like nervous feeling,
Hmm.
or are you scared and that's that nervous feeling? But it's actually the exact same feeling you
Same.
get.
Yeah.
Just it's your mindset is
Hmm.
what changes it.
Is this doing something for me or is it doing something to hurt me? And
Hmm.
a lot of
Or
people are feeling oh, it's doing something to hurt me. And that's something for my mindset lately. I say lately, it's probably been years, 2 years, whatever, however long I've been in this, but is seeing like, oh, everything's happening for me, not to me. Or
yeah.
it's like, how do we change that mindset of, oh, we got in this car accident. Oh man, that stupid person next to me did that. And you're like, okay, we're all human. I read a really awesome book. It's called Unoffendable. It's actually a Christian book, but it talks about how if we just looked at things as, hey, like it happens for you instead of you just being scared and worried and, oh, this was just being a victim. I think it's like the victor versus the victim mindset. And you
Yeah.
could take everything and make it a victim mindset. And you could take everything that happens to you as a victor too and say, oh,
Hmm.
this is to teach me something. This is to sharpen me to get better. So that's something that I feel like taking this jump and taking that leap and going through those fears and excitement, um, they can happen either way. It's how you think of it.
Yeah.
Most
It's
important.
like jumping into the pool for the first time in the summer. It's still
Is it going to
cold.
be cold? Yeah.
It's still cold. You know it's cold. You're like, that
Yeah.
water has not had time to warm up. Like it's gonna be really cold. But it's like, well, you could not, and you could wait for a while
Mm-hmm.
and not swim and not do pool days
Mm-hmm.
for, another 30 days because you're afraid of the cold water. Or
Or
you could just jump
get
in and
used
get
to
your
it.
body used to it. And then
Yep.
guess what? Now you're getting to have an actual summer of pool days. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same thing of like making the jump when it feels like it's time to make the jump
Yeah.
for you versus delaying the inevitable, right? The pain
Mm-hmm.
is inevitable.
Yep.
Suffering is optional. And
Mm.
I love that saying that comes from one of my old partners named Dave. He was amazing, but it's so true. Everything, it's like, no, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But you want it to hurt just like for like right now? Or
Mm-hmm.
do you want it to just like be this like terrible pain for months or years or
Right.
generations?
And the longer you wait for it, the worse it's going to be.
Yeah. And the
It's like everything.
anticipation of it, like this is
Like
going to hurt. This is going
conflict.
to
There's
hurt.
so many
Mhm.
things that if you invest in the right things at the right, like as quickly as possible, you see that it was only like this much time, but we're like, well, we'll just kind of do a little. It's just like, man, you use pool a lot, but it's like dipping your toe in. You're like, well, this is okay. It's just kind of cozy. But you're like, no,
Yeah.
that's just your toe. That's not going to be enough to be able to make an
Yeah.
impact
Or
on
me,
those
I'm
things.
like, I'll go up to my legs, but I won't get my stomach. It's
Yeah.
like you're not actually in the pool. Like I'm standing
Yeah.
on a step.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Everybody else is having fun and
I'm on
yeah.
the step. Like,
Oh,
is
you
it
guys look like
cold?
you're having fun. Yeah.
Is it cold over there? It feels colder in here, but is it cold over there? Yeah, that's what's happening in my
Yep.
brain. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it the whole time. But then you do it, and then you're just like, it takes your breath away for a hot
Hmm.
second, and then you're like, oh, I'm
Oh,
okay. I'm okay. I
we're
didn't
good.
die. I
No,
did. I didn't die.
we're still here. We haven't died yet.
We haven't done yet. I don't have hypothermia either, because that's really what I thought. I was just gonna like jump in and go numb, like just like
I'm
hypothermia
aboard.
happening. I'm a boy. I'm dying. Yeah, that's not didn't happen. It did. Of all of the cold waters that I've jumped into, that has not happened. So far, okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I have one more quick question, if we can.
Yeah,
What would you say to someone who feels trapped like you did, but scared to take action?
yeah. I think the very first thing you have to do is understand and organize where you're at financially.
Hmm.
And if you're not in a place where you can, for example, take a beat without working, not have an income for an X
Hmm.
amount of days, then what you need to do is then put together to say, okay, in 30 days, I want to be able to walk away, or in 60 days, I want to be able to walk away. So that means I need this much money currently. So you're going to rebudget, refocus yourself, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I would partner with, if you don't know how to do it yourself, or you and your partner don't know how to do it, partner with somebody. Please have somebody unbiased, as in they don't know you. It doesn't matter to them about your history or what you're
Right.
doing or not doing, just to help you get some logic planning together financially.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can take those steps in a really confident way. But I think that, I mean, when you really think about it, most of the stuff emotionally comes back to money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can organize yourself, and then if you can't walk away, then put some plans and strategies behind on when you can.
Yeah.
If you really want to do it, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that'd be my best advice, because if you have those facts and that logic, you're going to be okay to combat a little bit of the emotions,
Right.
that are coming at you. And a lot of those emotions are just fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah,
will give you the confidence.
I agree. And it's just having the right steps in place. And the way that we overcome fear is with more backing of information, right? And it's not
Yeah.
to go into analysis paralysis, like, well, I guess I'm just going to stay here forever. But it's like, hey, let's break it down. How do
Yeah.
you eat an elephant? You take one bite at a time. It's like we've got to figure out, work backwards and see how long that would be.
I'm like,
And
ew, don't eat an elephant. I was
yeah, I
like,
don't want to eat
just
elephant. Okay,
just do
one
like a
step at
little
a time.
chicken.
Whatever the metaphor you want to use is fine.
Yeah, just do it like a little hen. How about we just do a little Cornish hen? We'll just like start there. Like start somewhere. I don't know.
You
Don't
take
don't
a
don't
bite
touch
of
it.
a Cornish hen instead of an elephant. We're not doing elephants. So.
That's why you're gonna eat that Cornish hen real fast, one sitting. I guarantee it. But you gotta like break it down into that,
Yes,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think that there's a lot of different ways and creativeness that you can get to still live the life that you want. You just might need
Mhm.
somebody to help you. And so I guess really, I guess I go old school HR and be like, all right, if we do the 5 whys, and let me break it down.
Oh yeah.
The why is because you're not asking for help. So if you
Hmm.
ask for help,
Yeah.
then you're going to be able to help get the solutions that you want.
Right. Yeah. Don't do it alone. It's a
Don't
team
do it
sport.
alone.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the discussion today, Amanda. If
Yes.
you all these like, comment, share. No, I won't do all that. But if you want to reach out to us, feel free to comment on whatever platform you're seeing us on. We appreciate your time and excited to connect next time.
Yes. See you next time.
All right. Love you too. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.
Was it recording? Is it recording?